say, my name is Tim Willis anyway. We're here, we're on time, which is always a blessing. And of course, I just want to present to you Mark McPherson. Many of you know him anyway, and Mark is the speaker for today. I'm just going to be in the background, making sure that everything's running smoothly, and then if we get time at the end, we'll open it up for some questions or observations, etc. So we'll come back, and you'll see me again, at the end of the Mark's presentation. He's got a fantastic training. I've reviewed all the files. I love what he's done. Got some great photos as well. So, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. You're in charge, you know that, don't you? So,
yes, I'm in charge. So shall I switch? I was going to say switch to Audible. Shall I switch to the slideshow?
Please do, and I think we'll be fine then. Good. Well, as far as I know, everything is working, and away we go. Well, just in case you are not aware of what we're talking about today, it's how to deal with difficult people. And look, we're going to rush through this quickly, very quickly, because I don't want to waste your time. You're busy people, but we're going to cover quite a bit today in this small amount of time, and that's just some of the things we'll knock over today. And we'll have a look at what I call my groups of strategies. So I've collected my strategies into a number of groups, and in those groups, of course, there's lots of different strategies. My intention is to give you some strategies you can actually use, and I do have a slightly different take on things, which you'll see as you go through. And as I've said there, Mark will speak quickly and cover a lot of ground. I most certainly will. One thing I pride myself on doing is not giving you my case studies, but having you work on your own. Now, that's something you would do on a workshop or in coaching, and I call them real-life scenarios. I've got a million case studies, but you don't want mine. We want stuff from your real world. And one thing I do to help you gain your skill, the skills you really need, is what I call real-life rehearsals, and they're very realistic. They're called agent provocateur role plays. They're hard work for both of us, but they're very, very rewarding. So this is what I'm on about. There are 3 steps to dealing with difficult people in my world. One is knowing about what the violation is. What have they actually done? And I'll just throw this little line in here. Someone said the other day, I really hate such and such. He's got stupid ideas. And the violation, there was no violation. The person just didn't like them. That's very different than having a difficult person. The strategies is the next step, and then you need to personalise your approach. Now, first, the good news, and there is some good news. Most of the time, people just work well together. It doesn't matter. The large office like this, sometimes people are by themselves out in the field. Wherever they are, people tend to get on most of the time, but there is some bad news. So I've got 52 types of difficult people I put together years ago because people kept on saying, here's the 11 types or here's the 10 types. And I started to write down types. I got to 52. I'm not going to go through them today. There's a group I call don't pull their weight. Some of them are simply just lazy. You know the people at staff meetings who never put up their hand? I'd like some help with such and such. No, they're not going to help, that's for sure. There's a group that have an exaggerated view of their importance. Some are rule breakers. I'll do whatever I like. Some are everything's about them. People who think they're the boss, the know-all. There's a bunch of people around who just hinder work and progress and productivity. Just one of those is the loud talker in the office. These people can really destroy the harmony of a place. Some actually go as far as sabotaging and undermining. These are people who really do talk about people behind their back. Up in the top left there, that's a picture of a boy before and after. That's the agreement breaker, the person who likes to say, yes, I'll have that report done by 10 o'clock on Monday morning. And then 10 o'clock on Monday morning comes and it's a case of, what? Today? 10 o'clock means lunchtime, doesn't it? No, you make an agreement, you stick to it. There's people who go as far as belittling, persecuting and intimidating. And up in the top left there, I call that the close the close person, the person who invades your personal space, who think it's okay. Well, it's not okay. People go as far as manipulating. Every one of those photos means a particular type to me, and the people who will actually manipulate you. And that one there, the fellow tearing something off in his mouth, these people throw tantrums. They'll manipulate you by throwing a tantrum, and you're so scared of it, we sometimes give in. And the last group is simply the people who are aggressive. And that one up in the top left there with the person with their fists on the table, they're the demanding type. I don't care what you said. I want you to do such and such. Sir, I can't let you do that. We have rules here. I don't care. Do you know who I am? Oh, my goodness. So, look, the big problem with all of these people is that, well, it wouldn't be a problem except of all these things. I'm not going to read through every one of these. But we spend so much time dealing with them, and we end up with having extra work to do. And the bottom one is we get annoyed, frustrated, and we get stressed. So we need to deal with them one way or another. And it's no wonder so many of us at the end of our conversations with these people or dealing with them, we are just so exhausted mentally and physically. As I said, I'm going to go through this really quickly. All difficult people have three things in common, and it's so important to get this right. The first thing is they break a standard of behaviour. They break a rule. They do something which I call, puts them in the class of bad behaviour. This is important to work it out, because if they haven't broken a standard of behaviour, then it is possible you simply don't like them. The great thing about a difficult person, though, great thing, maybe that's the wrong word to use. The thing about a difficult person is they don't just do something wrong, because we all do things wrong. We've all done things wrong, and later during the day we go, oh, gee, I shouldn't have spoken to my partner like that, or Bill at the office or whatever, and we make amends. But with a difficult person, they don't. They don't show remorse. They don't believe they've done something wrong, and believe me, if they do show remorse, it's more along the lines of, oh, I'm sorry if I upset your feelings. They're not sincere, to the point of being sarcastic. And the third thing about difficult people is they repeat the behaviour. If they don't repeat the behaviour, it's a one-off, badly behaved episode of which we can all be guilty of. So this is important. What I want you to do, and this is a male, I realise we're talking to females as well, I don't want you to go home like this after a day at work. I don't want you to do that at all. I want you to go home feeling at least you are happy, you did your best. It's so important. So let's just have a look at what this means. The step one, you need to nail the violation. And the second one, strategies. Third one is personalise your approach. Let's have a look at nail the violation. This will sound basic to some of you, but this is sometimes the thing that gets people caught out. State what happened using facts and facts only. Fact is that the person broke a rule, they broke your standard of behaviour, whatever it is, but what did they actually do? Bill came into the office and he threw some paper on my desk, and I was facing the other way and it scared me. Mr. Jones leant over the counter and used the F word 3 times. These are the facts about what happened. Things like he was belligerent, she was disrespectful, might be true, but they're not helpful when we talk about facts. And the second thing you need to get straight is explaining what the problem is. What's wrong with Mr. Jones using the F word 3 times? Well, we have rules here. Not only did he do that, he also leaned across and put his finger in my chest. What is the actual problem with the behaviour? If you can't think what the problem is with it, you might be barking up the wrong tree. Maybe they're not difficult at all. But what are the facts about what happened? And explain what the problem is. Maybe they broke the rules. Maybe they broke an agreement. Bill said he would turn up at my place at 4 p.m. and he hasn't. Failed to follow a directive, violated a personal standards. We all have personal standards. If someone in your office, just for example, might find blaspheming totally unacceptable. You need to tailor the strategies. Now, strategies, I've got a long list of strategies, and let's just run through them really quickly because I don't want to go through every strategy because there's 17 of them, or whatever number there is. Safety first. Look, make sure you're safe. Simple and obvious. But if you're dealing with difficult people on the front line of say, a local government organisation, sometimes people have duress buttons. I've seen this in many organisations. Someone comes in and they look like they might pick up that stapler and throw it at you. Boy, oh boy, you need to do something. You can, actually, I hope you're enjoying my slides. You can leave them to it, and there's ways of doing that. One is you can actually avoid people. Let's be honest here. We've all done something like, well, I like Susie, but she can be so difficult. So what I do is I just avoid going past her desk. Sometimes you can rise above it. You cannot react to every bit of bad behaviour. So sometimes you've simply just got to leave them to it. Sometimes you want to forge ahead. Now, no matter how rude someone is, no matter how disagreeable, sometimes you put it aside and you simply forge ahead. Mr. Jones, I need you to sign this form. That's where you need to sign. Yes, Mr. Jones, I have heard your complaint about that, but what I need to do now is to get you to sign this, or I need you to take it away and look at it. So you can forge ahead. And there's a few things there about forging ahead. You can actually change people's worlds, their worlds. We all know that sometimes, this goes back to primary school, two kids are mucking up, you separate them. Neither are getting into trouble, you separate them because they sort of, they bounce off each other a little bit. But even in an office, changing the physical environment, helping them develop skills that they don't already have. Believe it or not, there are some people around in some workplaces who I think honestly don't understand how to behave sometimes. You do say please and thank you, etc. So there's several ways of which you can change their world. Laying it on the line. Now we're getting up there a little bit, aren't we? Because sometimes you have to look at someone straight in the face and say, Peter, your behaviour at the staff meeting when you interrupted Julie 3 times was unacceptable. Facts of that are you interrupted Julie 3 times. This is where we might fall down. Yes, it's all very well to tell your teenage son or the person in the office that you're unhappy with their use of the F word, you're unhappy with them coming late to work or whatever it happens to be, but somewhere along the line you have to take the extra step and give them a penalty. That could be a formal counselling session, it could be something more serious. And ultimately, boy oh boy, there are times when you need to end the relationship. No one wants to do this. I have been, when I worked for an organisation, I defended people who were going through disciplinary procedures, and I've also taken people through disciplinary procedures. So let's just have a look about laying it on the line. Well, now the first one I'll look at is forging ahead. I write scripts for people. These are the actual words that need to come out your mouth, the words. Sometimes I've got what I call personalised scripts for people, conversation scripts, but you have to devise your own because the way you say things is very different to the way I say things. But I can help you with the broad guideline. One of those is what I call the anatomical script. It's not so much a script as a collection of handy hints. And today, we don't have time to go through everything, that's for sure. But let's just have a little bit of a look at anatomical. This is, surprise, surprise, it's an acronym. I'm going to have a quick look at not the first 3, but let's just start with tell. Sometimes when you're dealing with someone who is hard to deal with because they interrupt, they're not listening, they demand things, they go off on tangents, boy oh boy, they're difficult because it's just so frustrating and it's such hard work. So you need to tell them, this is one of the things you can do and I suggest doing it, tell them what you can and can't do. Mr. Jones, I have heard your story, I fully understand that you've made an honest effort, but today I am unable to do what you ask. What I can do for you today, however, is A, B, C. And when Mr. Jones says, I really want you to do such a, Mr. Jones, that's not on the table today. It's A, B or C. And this is when options can become really useful. Giving people options really works. Mr. Jones, there are 3 things I can do for you today. You can take the form away with you, you can sit over there and complete it, or you can take it home and go online and do it. One of those 3 options is what I'm offering you today. Little messages are important. Mr. Jones, I told you before, no swearing allowed. Sometimes you need to give straight down the line information. I was working with an outdoor group from a local government organisation, and one of the things they were often confronted with was people complaining to them about things like the rates and whatever. It was nothing to do with them. So rather than get into an argument, their job was to simply give some information. If you have a complaint, please go to the website and whatever. My last one there is cut the blah. I'm going on a bit, there's no doubt about that, but when you're dealing with difficult people, cut the blah. Don't say too much. We want to say extra stuff all the time. I was witness to a manager saying this to a staff member who really had broken the rules and really did the wrong thing. Oh, I'm so sorry it came to this. Oh, I hope we can still be friends. Good grief. That's not a part of the script. So just be careful and be wary about going on a little bit too much. Only say what's necessary. So that's just the middle of the anatomical script. There's a lot in that. There's hours worth of work of practicing about what options are and your messages, etc. I'll talk a little bit about one of my favourite scripts today, and it's the fewer script. And yes, it's another acronym because I like them. It's how I remember things. Sometimes you need to tell someone that their behaviour is totally unacceptable, and you need to go further and tell them that what you want from them, and you need to also tell them that there will be rewards and penalties. So let's just take a bit of a look. There's those 5 steps, and let's just have a look. We've done this, so if you've done the first step about nailing the violation, you have no trouble with this. What are the facts? Mr. Jones, you've used the F word 3 times in this conversation, and I warned you earlier if you used it again, there would be ramifications, whatever it happens to be. So the facts. Mr. Jones did this. Susie came into my office, I was on the phone, and she raised her voice and told me I was this, that and the other thing. Bill is a lovely man, no doubt, but the facts of the matter is when Bill is on the phone, he speaks at a volume that makes it difficult for me to concentrate on my work. We've all worked in open plan offices. We sure know what they're like sometimes. So just what are the facts? Now you need to explain what the problem is. Most people know immediately. You and I know. When someone says, Mark, you've used the F word 3 times, we immediately know this is wrong, we're in trouble, we shouldn't have done it. But please be prepared to say what the problem is, because a truly difficult person does not get it or tells you they don't get it. What's wrong with using the F word? We all use the F word, so what? Oh, I didn't realise you were so delicate. No, you need to explain. We have a rule in this office about language, whatever it happens to be, and there it is written up on the wall about what language is acceptable and not acceptable. Need to explain it. Now, this works incredibly well whether you're talking to your teenage son who has failed to tidy up his room or whatever it happens to be. And I can give you a real example about this. There's no problem. What do you want the person to do? Here's one for you. Michael, I worked with Michael, I'll just use that name, and Michael made some errors on his timesheet, all in his favour, day after day. Surprise, surprise, in his favour. So after I tell him what the facts were, after telling him what the problem was, which was, Michael, I need to sign this as a true and accurate record and I'm unable to. That's so much better than saying, Michael, I think you're a liar and a cheat. That might be true, but it will not be productive. So tell them what you want. From now on, what I want you to do is such and such. From now on, I would like you to make sure that your room is tidy when I come home from work or whatever it happens to be. I want you to make sure that you hand in your weekly report by 10 a.m. on Monday morning to me on my desk or via an email. Tell them and explain to them why it's a good idea. We'll talk sometime about the word because. It's nice to put the word because in it. Because that will make sure that I have your report and I'm able to go to the senior management meeting with everyone's report, whatever it happens to be. But explain. Facts, explain why it's a problem, tell them what you want, explain what you want from them in future. Now comes the rewards and penalties. This is not a long script. You can do it in about 25 seconds from start to finish. Sometimes you need to tell someone what the rewards for doing what you want are and what the penalties are. I actually said to someone when I worked for a large organisation as a penalty and a reward and penalty was, if you can do that for me, this conversation is done and dusted. It's over. That's it. But, and there is a but here, I see nothing wrong with the word but, if you continue to make those sorts of comments at staff meetings to anyone or do anything similar, I will treat it as a very serious matter and we will have a formal counselling session or whatever the process is in your organisation. So the fewer technique is one you can use in all sorts of places, at home, at work, in your local community organisation. So I write these things called scripts, and a slightly different version to fewer is the FEA script. Once again, facts and explain. But look, I would take in a workshop quite a bit of time to do that because everyone's situation is slightly different. So facts, yes. The facts of the case are, let's just for example, oh, Michael, you've come to work late 3 times this week. That's a problem because we have rules here about what time you're supposed to come to work. Now, that's the facts and that's the explain. But rather than telling what you want, sometimes you need to ask the person something. And I found this incredibly effective over the years, rather than going into berating them, if you like. So, Michael, can you tell me why you've been coming to work late? Is this something we can help you with? That sort of thing is really important, as well as is getting commitment. So, look, what will you be able to do to make sure that you get to work on time? It's a softer approach, but nonetheless, you get a lot of information that could be valuable. If Michael turns around, or whoever it happens to be, turns around and says, oh, I don't like work and I don't feel like getting here on time, well, it's a slightly different matter, that's for sure. As I said, there's a lot to this, but asking the person a question can be very, very valuable. Another thing we use is what I call assertive instant messages, and these work incredibly well. They're verbal, they're vocal, they're visual. Let's say you're on the phone in an office and Bill comes in and starts talking to you. You don't have time to say, oh, excuse me, Bill, I'm on the phone. Could you please be quiet for a while? You look at Bill, you point to the phone, you put a finger over your lips and mouth as indicate to shush, and that's it. These are great messages that work. They work well when people are cooperative. They work well when you have a relationship with the person. You don't always want to put a finger over your mouth and go shush to someone who you don't have a good relationship or a relationship with, because they might find it offensive. But we have them a lot, and one of my favourite ones is stop, I don't like it. It's really quite, I don't know why it does that funny little thing, but no, it does. Stop, I don't like it. It's a simple, straight down the line, assertive, instant message with a hand signal that says, knock it off. It doesn't work well necessarily in some places, but it does work in others. It gets the point. And please note that picture I've got there was just a stock image, but just notice that hand movement. If the hand is up higher, it can be considered rude. Down too low, it's meaningless. It's got to be at the right level, and it's got to stay there for a certain amount of time to indicate stop. I have systems for responding to criticisms and put downs, and you don't always have to respond to these things, but there is a system of responding to criticisms and put downs which can be very, very useful, and I'm more than happy to provide these things to you. I'll give you one thing, a little tip here. When you are dealing with a difficult person, you don't have to stick it out. I saw in a book once many years ago, you should stay there for the whole time to show how assertive you are. You need to look after yourself. I want you to look after yourself. If you're feeling the strain, consider taking a quick break. Consider saying something like, I need a few minutes. I need to check something. I need to consult with someone about that. I need to look at the file. You're allowed to get up. You're allowed to walk away, go to the toilet, wash your face, look in the mirror, ask yourself, why me? Why me? Clean yourself up and go. Breathe is always a good thing, and go back. Now, a difficult person wants to know something when you come back. Oh, are you okay? They don't care if you're okay or not. Are you okay? Oh, I hope I didn't upset you. All that sort of stuff. Your job is to say, I'm back and ready. Where we were up to was blah, blah, blah. Take control. But yeah, if you're feeling the strain, you feel like you need a break, take one. Don't make it too long. 5 minutes is a long time for someone to sit there who's difficult, because they will see that as a weakness in you. The third step, now please appreciate this is not a workshop and what we could do in 6 hours or over a period of longer than that. We're cutting this right down. So those strategies that I've given you, I've glossed over. There's so much in those. And there's a lot to it, and I'm happy for you to contact me and discuss it. But the third step is I've given you strategies, but only you know how to implement them. The way I speak is not the way you speak. My example of working in an organisation is different to your experience. So you need to personalise your approach, because every one of us, no matter how often, who we're dealing with, we all have different reactions, and that's a reaction that fellow's got there. It's a classic difficult person look. I can look at you in the face like this, try and make you feel sorry for me, and I will intimidate you by looking at you for some time. That's a trick, and you need to personalise your approach to dealing with these people. So, how do you personalise it? Well, there's the verbal code, the words, the vocal code, how you sound, what volume you use, what pauses you use, etc. This is important for you to get your own way of doing things. And there's the visual code of communication, what you do with your eyes, your hand, your whole body. And let's just have a look at this visual stuff very, very brief. I've documented 11 essential visual communication skills. I'm happy to share those with you, but these are important because every little thing you do, like the picture of that woman there, every little thing you do can be seen as a difficult person as an excuse for them to behave the way they did. Oh, I had to yell at her because she looked at me funny. Oh, I could tell by her eyes that she thought I was a liar. Or I could see on her lips what she was about to say. They will take anything as an excuse. So getting the essential visual communication skills right is really important. And I have some principles. There are some principles that go with all of this. And they're everything from, look, don't expect to be thanked when you speak up to people. I'm amazed that sometimes people actually think by speaking up that there will be some positive results coming their way by people, and accept that things mightn't go as planned. Just because you tell Bill in the office that he speaks too loudly on the phone when you are trying to concentrate, don't think that immediately he's going to turn around and go, oh, yes, I am terrible on the phone. Thank you for pointing it out. I shall now be better behaved. It doesn't work like that always. I'm getting to the end now because I want to make sure that I do have time for some questions and discussion with Kim. But look, going to work, dealing with people in organisations can be very tricky. It's not all like this, having a cup of tea over the at the lunch table or whatever. I get that. People can be difficult to deal with. Simple things bug people, and I get it. You go to the kitchen room, the meeting room, the lunch room, and lo and behold, someone's put their soup in the microwave. It's boiled over everywhere, and they've just walked off. How can it be? Well, I call it bad behaviour. And if it's done more than once, it becomes difficult behaviour. Remember, there are these groups of strategies, I call them. You need to protect yourself. Number one, we understand that. Sometimes you need to leave them to it. You cannot react to everyone's bad behaviour. If that was the case, I'd drive 100 metres down the road and I'd be so crossed by the person who didn't let me in, the person who didn't stop for the person on the crossing, the people who didn't understand that when two lanes go into one, it's one from one lane, one from the other. It's called basic manners. Tell them what you need to tell them. Sometimes with things like the anatomical script, you can forge ahead. No matter what they're doing, no matter what they're saying, you forge ahead, tell them what you need to tell them, get them to sign the form and move on. Changing their world. There are a number of things in there, ways of changing people's world, from developing their skills to, I think my partner was very, very good. I saw it in action a few times, of calming people down by trying to build some rapport with them and calming them down. It does not mean that they're not going to be difficult tomorrow, but during that time, you've got the result you want. Laying it on the line. I have 7 things in there, 7 strategies for what I call laying it on the line, because the ultimate here is sometimes dealing with difficult people. You have to tell them their behaviour is not satisfactory. And this is what's going to happen from now on. So I'm going to leave it there because that is now almost 35 minutes. That's probably enough for all of us. I hope you've enjoyed your cup of tea and lunch.